Well, hello there, motherfuckers. And this is gonna be a review of The Walking Dead Season 5 premiere, the first episode, No Sanctuary. Now, very sadly, a lot of my friends have stopped watching this show, and they stopped watching back in the second season. These people are a bunch of mamalukes, no doubt about it. They gave up on a show that had a lot of potential just because things didn't go their way in the second season. It reminds me a lot of the wrestling reviews that I do on here. Things don't go their way in wrestling in the YWC, the YouTube wrestling community for my non wrestling fan subscribers. There's people who are fans of other things and they just give up. I'm not a quitter. I stick with things to the end, and boy, oh boy, am I happy that I stuck with The Walking Dead up until this point. Because this show has definitely proclaimed its title of being the best show on TV right now. Now, there's a lot of other top contenders out there like Gotham and things like that. But with Breaking Bad gone, this show has really stepped up its game as far as all the AMC shows go. This is a quality show and a quality season premiere. Now, I would definitely take into consideration some, comments that people have made, some opinions people have about this show being boring at times. Some people say it's boring all the time, but those people are the boring people, to say the very least. Complaints arose in season 2 when that season was, transpiring because they were down on Herschel's farm. I will admit it did go at a snail's pace, perhaps a bit too much of a slowdown in the story, especially after a hectic first season. Then things in the prison from season 3 going into season 4 was a little bit, you could say, too much. The same scenery, it got old and tiresome. But then midway through the fourth season, when they had the mid-season premiere on during season 4, things picked up big time, especially with that story arc of the governor. Things got a lot more exciting. There was more action. There was a quicker storyline progression. I think that everybody working on this show was listening to the complaints of fans. Jesus motherfucking Christ. If you see season 5, and you shouldn't even be watching this if you're trying to avoid spoilers. We all saw at the end of season 4, the finale, that they finally have reached terminus, and this was one of the most exciting times in The Walking Dead. Now, I'm very impressed with myself, being a native, interneter, explorer, whatever you want to call me. I managed to be on YouTube, the entire internet, and avoid all spoilers, avoid everything. I don't listen to people that have read the graphic novels. People like to march around like they have a fucking medal pinned on their chest because they've read a graphic novel. And these people could be very stuck up and annoying. And, I have a friend who doesn't watch these videos, I don't think. And he has read the graphic novels, and he thinks like he's some type of fortune teller, some type of psychic, because he's read a fucking comic book about it. And to me, if you haven't read the comic book, you're lucky. Because just like me, you don't know what the fuck is going to happen. And that is the best thing. I like not knowing what's, going to happen, because it makes it more exciting that way. It makes it more fresh. That's what I enjoy, more freshness to the show, and that makes it even more exciting because you don't know, even though they've changed a lot of things in the show from what I've heard, it's still newer, exciting, it's more unpredictable that way. If you've read the graphic novel, bravo for you. We'll go get you a medal out of a fucking Cracker Jack box or some shit like that. But other than that, if you haven't read it, I think that you actually have an advantage over other people, despite what the graphic novel fans think. No. Um, happy that I don't have any spoilers and that I managed to avoid them. I know where not to go on the internet if you want to avoid spoilers. Stay off all message boards. Just stay away from that fucking shit, basically. Now let's talk more directly. Let's review season 5. So obviously they have listened to the complaints of a lot of fans that said I'm bored because this season premiere was probably the most action packed, probably the goriest fucking episode. The fucking episode starts off, spoiler alert to the motherfucking extreme, motherfuckers. So if you don't want any goddamn spoilers, get the fuck out of here. Seriously. Go, there's the door or the X or something like that. There's the back button. Get the fuck off this video because we're gonna talk about this episode with spoilers aplenty. Because there's no way you could properly analyze a fucking episode like this without spoiling a couple of things. A lot of things taking place in this episode. Way more shit happened in this one episode than I thought was going to happen. Okay, so we all saw how it ended with season 4. Maybe you haven't. But they finally found the sanctuary terminus. It's the name of this episode is No Sanctuary. Because they find out it's anything but a sanctuary. It's actually a slaughterhouse for fucking humans. And basically what it is, everyone who's at Terminus is a motherfucking cannibal. And they're there, they're they're lining everybody up at a trough. Yes, like what pigs eat out of. They're lining them all up. Glenn, Rick, Daryl, they're all lining them up. They tied them up, they lined them up. And basically, the guys working here in the slaughterhouse take a bat, bash the guy in the back of his head. He falls down on a trough, and then they fucking slit the guy's throat. That right there, I couldn't believe the level of violence. I mean, this has always been a violent show. Zombies, walkers ripping people apart. But this was like the style of violence was holy fucking shit. We've only seen like stylized violence and violence we've already seen, but this and the scenario, the setting, the fact that they're gonna basically be turned into somebody's dinners, it's fucking disturbing. And this was a very, very powerful scene. They even talked about it in The Talking Dead, if anybody sees that later on, how they went about this. Very bloody scene, very gripping scene, very gory. I'm sure more casual fans, if you could call them that, who were, maybe more adjusted to slower paced episodes with less gore, maybe might have turned it off. Because this was pretty disturbing. I can imagine a lot of people were watching this through their fingers. I mean, my God. This was a pretty fucking, gripping scene, I have to say. So that definitely got big points. You definitely want to start off your season premiere with an idea or a concept that is, that grabs the viewer. And did they succeed? Oh, at this, boy, oh boy, did they ever. I was very impressed with this. I was like, damn, they're willing to go all out to try to recapture fans, try to, satisfy the ones they already have with an increased level of gore and shock value. But we knew this was coming anyway. And then you see the scene where they're actually just walking through the slaughterhouse at Terminus, and you're seeing the bodies, dead bodies that have been disembodied pretty much. And, this is like probably the most disturbing thing of all time. We've only seen, walking corpses, but now we're actually just seeing, corpses of bodies that have been ripped apart. They're hanging from chains. My God. This was like, as far as cinematography goes, this was like, it was like shocking, like really eye-widening stuff that we were seeing visually, maybe the most impressive. And then this just turns out into an all-out war from that point on. Carol steps up big time in this, looking like a badass. You know what's really hilarious is that through seasons 1, 2, 3, it only started in 4, but my God, Carol becoming like a fucking Rambo of sorts. Thank God they stepped up her character, which was just meek, worthless, and I won't say annoying, but she really didn't have a purpose. It got annoying that she was there and she really wasn't serving a fucking purpose. But they stepped up. She blows up a fucking gas tank in this episode. She's basically saving their asses. She's really like a worthy character now. Finally, a purpose for a character. That's the thing. If you're gonna have a character, at least make it a fucking point, to having that character. And they definitely did. They stepped it up. Like I said, I've noticed improved writing, from mid-season 4 on. They've really, worked out the kinks, stuff that doesn't work. They've removed parts, the slow, boring parts. Parts that that should have ended up as deleted scenes, and there was nothing like that in this episode. This was pretty much, I'd say, 3/4 all-out action. The whole thing is just the fucking fight against the walkers, and this was probably one of the biggest fucking battles they've ever shown. They started off with a fucking bang. And I liked it because even though there's a lot of action going on, they didn't forget about the character development, because Carol's character was developed to a whole new level here. Maybe some people might have missed that, but Carol, I don't know how you could, stepped up in this episode and really showed that, really, if anything, she might even be a bigger badass than Rick. She seemed like she fucking took out more walkers, more fucking people, more of the villains in Terminus than Rick and Daryl did combined. Now maybe that was because she had better weaponry, but that aside, I mean, I was very impressed with that level of character development that they delivered here. To me, that was very, very exciting to finally see her get her comeuppance. Finally get to see Carol actually, doing something worthwhile like she was doing mid-season 4 and on. That's more than you could hope for, with a show where characters just become all-out badasses, developing characters, going from absolutely fucking nothing. Carol was, pardon the, being harsh on her like this, but pathetic, beaten by her husband. She was just meek, shy, just pretty much worthless to the group, not providing anything at all. Maybe small little bits of advice here and there to Daryl or Rick, but really not even serving a full-on purpose for the group. And now it's like a total 180. And that's something you got to appreciate as a fan. When you invest that much time into a show and you finally see that character make the turn, that right there, that makes everything all worth it. So I really don't even feel sorry for the people that stopped watching. This is not a show like How I Met Your Mother or some fucking pussy-ass bullshit like that. This is a show where you gotta be invested in it for the long haul. This is all about the character development. This is all about the story, the storyline. Where is it gonna go next? You gotta understand with a story like this, they're in the zombie apocalypse. People are under immense pressure, to say the very least. And, seeing how people are going to react in all these different unique situations that are very far removed from real life. That's what makes the show as excellent as it is and makes it that much more appealing. It's because a lot of this stuff probably will never happen. Some people believe in a zombie apocalypse, but for those who don't, more realistically, that it won't happen. That's what makes the show so appealing, is that these are human characters and they're behaving in a very realistic human fashion in a fictional universe like that. They're relatable. you could sympathize, you could empathize with them, and that's what makes the show so appealing. With I think a lot of people failed to realize and why they stopped watching. They really didn't look at it from outside the box, which is very important maybe with certain shows. You know, people tend to have a very simplistic viewing of certain movies, and you could really tell that by from some of the movies that they release nowadays. If anything, actually, television is more powerful than movies nowadays. I feel like they have a more human approach. I find more shows more relatable on TV than in the movies, actually, to tell you the truth. Nowadays, when people say there's nothing on television, I'm pretty fucking confused by that, because there's a lot of good shows, and this is one of them. In fact, this is an excellent show. And that's it's all I'm saying is, perhaps to the people watching this video who haven't watched Walking Dead in a while, I really have to advise you to go back and watch what you missed all the way up to this point. And I think that you're going to thank me later for that, because this is a really human show. It's a show where characters are not just dancing around like idiots. They're not just sitting around at a bar making stupid ass comments. This is all about humans reacting, their relationships with one another, in just a scenario that's very unique and high pressure. So this, I'm gonna have to give this season premiere a 10 out of 10. This is probably the best way The Walking Dead could have possibly went. I think it's going to silence all their critics. I'm sure they're still going to have a lot of critics. So too much action. You know, there will be people who will diss this episode, that will still continue to diss this series. And these are just rebels because the show has reached a high level of mainstream. So some people are going to have a problem with that. But to all others, I have to fully recommend this episode and the series altogether. All right, motherfuckers.